My name is Renee Murphy. I was born in Drogheda in County Louth. I came to live in Warren Point in 1968. My poor mother reckoned I started the troubles. Met a man who became my husband. 7 days later, he asked me to marry him. I was a Church of Ireland member from the Republic of Ireland, marrying a Northern Catholic, and back in the 60s that wasn't the most popular thing to do, but it was right for us and we made it work and it was good. We lived there until the mid-80s. The Troubles were at their height, I suppose, at that stage, and we had 3 teenagers. We decided perhaps it would be a good idea to move to Australia. So we shipped them and the contents of a 12-roomed house in a container. It didn't really work, and less than a year later, we came back. Having sent the furniture around the world, we finished up 50 yards up the road, which was quite an expensive trip. But I always think it's the things you don't do in this life you should regret, not the things you do. Having said that, my son went back and he lives there very happily now. But it was quite a traumatic time in our lives.
Laura McCarson, and I'm from Donegal. About 7 mile out the road towards Banbridge. There was 8 of us. We hadn't much money, and Daddy, he worked as a farm labourer for Mary Young, who is now Lady Betty Edmund. I wanted, when I left school, to join the RAF. I could train as a nurse, but that didn't happen. Daddy, he wanted me to start working because they needed money. He said I wouldn't be fit to be a nurse because if I seen blood, I would run. I was 15 and the teacher got me a job in Wilson Ratliff's in Newry, getting £3 a week. And my keep, when we're coming through the door on a Friday night, Daddy opened the door with one hand and the hand out with the other.
My name is Vinod Tuhani. I was born in India and I spent my early childhood in Allahabad. And then I came over to join my parents in Northern Ireland. I was about 13 and a half. Don't even know why the hell they came to Mourne Point, but I'm so glad they did, because it's the most beautiful, picturesque place in the whole of Northern Ireland. And I love Mourne Point. When I first came here, it was a big cultural shock because I didn't speak a word of English. It was blooming cold as well. Not being able to communicate. And then within a week, I had to go to the new school, which was a big problem. And nobody ever did bully me in the school. And it was quite important to realize I was the only Indian child in the whole school.
In the north, when we had our house down in the town, in the mid-70s, I opened a preschool playgroup at a time when preschool education was coming to the fore a bit. But it took off and it was very successful. We had lots of children there from various backgrounds, which was nice, except that, of course, once they left us, Northern Ireland being what it is, they went in different directions to various other schools.
Even the infectious diseases outbreaks used to be either in a Catholic school or a Protestant school. I remember there was a measles outbreak, and that was only in Protestant school. And one actually wondered why it was happening only in Protestant school. It inspired that they were all hockey players and they played hockey with each other. And of course, the Catholic school didn't play hockey, so they were prevented from getting measles. That could only happen in Northern Ireland. It just illustrates the point how separate each community is living.
The Troubles didn't at all, in any one way or the other, come into it. We were Protestants. The neighbours up the road, the Catholic neighbours, we worked with each other all the time, even the day before the 12th. And they were all mucking in and helping, and they borrowed our machinery, we borrowed their machinery. It just didn't come into it at all. Whenever you're out on the roads, just stopping, and that sort of thing was terrible. Maybe you were rushing somewhere, and Raven often was going into shops, having to open your bag and them poking in your bag with nothing in it anyway, but it was holding you up. You know, when there wasn't that sort of time to be lost whenever you were on a farm doing what I was trying to do.
72 wasn't a very nice year or a good year for me. My husband took my 3 boys to stock car racing in Dundalk. The car ran off and it went into the 4 of them. And they ended up in the Louth hospital. And the next thing I heard that David had his leg amputated. He was 7. He had to be transferred from Dundalk to Newry. The ambulance from Dundalk took him to the border, and the ambulance from Newry was to meet him at the border. It was a horrific thing to transfer him. They wouldn't take the stretcher out of either ambulance. They had to transfer him on the road. Dundalk ambulance man said, I am leaving this child in Daisy Hill. And he drove the ambulance in spite of all the precautions. And he drove it to Daisy Hill. And he was 6 months in Daisy Hill. When he would go out, when he got bigger, the boys were very good, his friends were very good to him, and they would take him out to dances and that, and he always put the spare artificial leg in the back of the car. And the ministry would come along, and the first thing they would open the boot of the car, and this artificial leg.
We were aware of all the troubles because obviously it affected my father's business as well. My father's business got bombed. And there was a general increase in number of checkpoints. Nowadays, we take for granted to go into a shop without your bags being searched. It was a difficult time, and there was a lot of tension. There wasn't any problem really I can see in Mourne Point, or indeed even in Newry. Until I remember in '69, when the first Civil Rights March took place. I remember going to that march. The ground was fertile for the Troubles because there was so much discrimination in terms of housing, jobs. Newry was mainly a Catholic town, but in our Daisy Hill Hospital, there was not a single Catholic consultant in those days. It was so obvious, very overt kind of discrimination.
By the time Alison was bravely on in her teens, there was a great bit of troubles going at that stage. But she wanted to go to her auntie's in Ballynahinch. Well, I couldn't stop her. And there was rioting and all. So away I goes, I says, right, she's not home yet, I'm going to get her. And none of us could go up into the town for it's just a ring of steel. We're standing in an alleyway and I peeped out for to see what's going on, and the next thing a rubber bullet just flew by me. I says, woman, what's that there? And she says, that's a bullet. So I looked on the ground just over a bit, and there it was lying, a rubber bullet.
It was scary because they were at an age and a stage where they wanted to be out with their friends, and of course we wanted them to be out as well. It was always just a worry that something would happen. Maybe there was a bomb in Newry and you think, I hope they haven't gone somewhere that we don't know. It was difficult. It was a worrying time, to be honest. Strangely enough, the Narrow Water episode, at that stage, Brian, my husband, was working in Newry. He had just driven past about 5 minutes and I heard the bang. It was very scary. We didn't have mobile phones back in those days, so it took a while for word to filter around.
We used to have our cross-border meetings well before the Good Friday Agreement. We used to meet regularly with our colleagues from the south, talking about the health problem, because health problems don't really see the borders. If there's somebody who's got measles in the south, sure enough, you'll get the measles in the north as well. There was a shortage of anti-TB vaccine, called BCG. There were something like 400 children in a school in Kilkeel. And suddenly the UK government announced that there's no BCG vaccine available. And that meant denying those children their vaccination. I called my colleagues in Mourne and I said, look, we have a real problem here and we need something like 400 BCG vaccines. Is there any chance you can give us that? And whenever we have the vaccine, we'll give it back to you. And the man said, as it happens, they just finished their BCG program and they have about 1,000 doses there. If I bring my ice bag, you can take it today. So I actually drove down to Mourne and got the vaccines free of charge. And we gave the vaccines to our kids. And I remember telling this story to our senior medical officer in the Department of Health in Northern Ireland. I said, that's what I've done. He said, please don't repeat that story, otherwise there will be a big problem.
I was a fluent Irish speaker, and that wouldn't have been the norm with somebody from a Church of Ireland background, certainly in the north of Ireland. We didn't have any big problems with that. All our friends were of both religions. It can work and it does work, and you don't have to just give in to what some people might see as bigotry. You know, we just didn't have any of that, thankfully. Warrenpoint was a wonderful place to live in those days, and still is, of course.
Women were far busier then, but they were happier. Life, I think, is very, very, very difficult, and I think it'll be a lot worse with jobs and worries of jobs. And even though education, I know it's great for them now, I think it's still hard for them.
I always felt very close to the Irish people in that sense. We had a common issue in terms of how it affected our country and our relationship with other people. In the 60s, although there was a lot of discrimination, people got on very well with each other. The bigotry is even greater now than what it used to be. I think people are more polarized now than they were in the 1960s. You don't see so much shooting or bombing now. But in reality, I think people still mistrust each other quite a lot. Humanity is the same everywhere. And it takes a while for people to understand that other person are not demon.